Yo, what's going on, guys? It's your boy. Welcome back to another video. With the month of June coming to an end, I have seen a lot of movies that released in the month of June. We're going to be going through and ranking them here. I do want to go ahead and start off this video by saying I do think, without a doubt, June has been the best month for movies this year. And I saw 10 movies, and it really is going to be putting these movies to the test of which ones really are super memorable and which ones I think are going to have a good rewatchability. So overall, this ranking was incredibly tough, and I kind of want to put this into perspective before I get too far into this list. All of the movies that I saw this month, I would say, were at least good, right? So if I had to put them all in a tier, I probably would have the bottom one is it's okay, it's good, it's not great. And then we have all the next ones are pretty good. And then we have the top four are all great. And then the number one is one that I think is truly special and almost on that life-changing degree of films. So overall, I had a really good time with this month. I really want to dive into all of the movies that I've seen, but before I get too far into it, I'm going to go ahead and address the one big movie that I missed. I am really bummed out that I did not get the chance to see it. Megan 2.0. I've actually heard a lot of really bad reviews for it, so I don't really know if I'm missing out that much on it. However, this movie looks like a silly, goofy time, and I'm the kind of person who loves silly little movies like this. I personally kind of liked the movie Argylle that came out last year that everybody hated, and so sometimes a silly, stupid movie can be a good time, and I'm upset that I missed that one. But that being said, let's go ahead and dive into the movies that I have seen. Alrighty, and in dead last place, we have the movie The Phoenician Scheme. Personally, I do kind of like this movie. I just think that it very much is disappointing in the grand scheme of all of the Wes Anderson movies. I think that for the most part, Wes Anderson typically has a really good emotional through line in all of his films. Like The Isle of Dogs is absolutely phenomenal. Fantastic Mr. Fox, there's a lot of, story about pride and how you need to feel this sense of accomplishment, and if you don't, you feel like you haven't accomplished anything in life. Whereas in this movie, there's almost no emotional through line to it. The story just kind of feels like a fully for the vibes kind of movie, and I know that a lot of people go to see Wes Anderson movies for that specifically. So on the sense of hey, does this have a good vibe? Yeah, definitely, for sure. Does it have some good comedy moments in it? Yeah, as well. I definitely think that there are a couple of moments here and there that are really great. I think that for the most part, it's a good spectacle. And if you're the kind of person who just likes seeing the art and cinematography of a film, it definitely has that going for it. But I just think that it's not necessarily as memorable as any of his other work. And if I had to rank Wes Anderson's filmography, I definitely don't think that this is cracking a top 5 or maybe even a top 8. So that being said, is it there? Is it something you could watch if you're a Wes Anderson fan? Will you like it more than I did? Probably. I just was not personally a huge fan of it. Coming in 9th place, we have the movie Ballerina, and I do want to go ahead and say, as far as the action sequences in this film goes, it is absolutely fantastic. I think that this movie has a lot of very high energy. I think that, for the most part, Ana de Armas shows that she really can handle the leading role, and especially in a film like this. I think that there's a very interesting kind of premise with the final act where she goes into a city that the entire city is secretly a cult, so she kind of needs to defeat this entire city that is out to get her. That is really cool. I don't think that they accomplish it nearly as well as they potentially could have, but that being said, the premise and the fact that she kind of needs to watch her back at every single corner for the entire third act was really interesting. I think that John Wick's inclusion actually almost weakens this film for me personally, as somebody who's not the hugest John Wick fan. I just feel like throwing him into this film felt completely unnecessary, and it almost slowed the pace of this film. That being said, I definitely think that him being a character for her to potentially look up to did make it a little bit interesting. And when she has conversations with him about hey, how do I start doing the kind of stuff that you do? And he's like, please don't. I do think that that's fun. And I definitely think that there are elements of this film that work relatively well. I just don't think that, like the John Wick films, there's scenes like the pencil sequence where it's this is one of the most iconic sequences, and you leave the movie theater and you're yeah, that's a scene that's really going to stick with me for a while. I don't think Ballerina had any interesting action sequences that were like that or on that level. I think at the end of the day, it's just a solid, good movie, and there's a couple of lines of dialogue that, in my opinion, kind of sets it back a little bit, like a couple of sequences that have to draw attention to the fact that she's a woman. Not only is she cool and badass, but she's also, get this, a girl. And it kind of kills the vibes of some of the sequences. There's a training montage early on in the film where she's learning how to fight and kind of use certain things to her advantage. And the person is doing this big grand speech, and she's just you have to break the rules. You have to fight in a very creative way. You have to make sure that you're catching them off guard and taking advantage of whatever opportunities you can. And then they say at the end of it, fight like a girl. And the way that they say it just sounded so not great. And there's just a couple of moments like this that are very poorly written throughout the film. So I do like it for the most part. I just think that I could not rank it higher on this list because of those reasons. Coming in 8th place, we have the movie Materialist, which was, in my opinion, just marketed absolutely horribly for what the movie actually is. I do like it. I think that for the most part, this film has a lot of very interesting things to say. I don't think that it really dives deep enough into any of the very interesting things that it needs to say, but I like the fact that it's kind of portraying kind of like the horrors of online dating. I think that that's one of the most important things about this movie that they do a really good job with. There's a subplot in here, spoiler alert for anybody who has not seen the movie, skip to about 20 seconds from now. There's a subplot in here where one of Dakota Johnson's clients gets sexually assaulted, and it single-handedly teaches Dakota Johnson's character that, oh my god, people are actually people and not just numbers on a spreadsheet. And I think that that's kind of an interesting way to go about doing that. That to me felt very odd, but I do like that message overall of the fact that, like, you don't truly know who a person is until you actually spend time with them. And if you are going after somebody for things like materialistic purposes, or oh, they have to be this height, or oh, they have to be this level of attractiveness, you're bound to just not work out, because at the end of the day, love isn't about, oh, what does this person have to offer me? It's about what this person makes you feel, right? I think that that's one of the big things here, is they have this like love triangle dynamic, which at no point actually feels like a love triangle. And there's Pedro Pascal, which is the like, what do you want out of a relationship? And it's like, okay, well, I want a guy that's rich and hot and handsome and does this thing and does that thing. And then Chris Evans' character, who is somebody who loves you unconditionally. And that's the kind of love you should be looking for in life. I think that that's the message they're trying to send with this movie. I just think that they don't do a really good job with the delivery of that. Oh, and Dakota Johnson low-key has really, really bad chemistry with everybody. And it works for the first act of the movie because she's supposed to be really cold and distant and a materialistic bitch. And like, so at first I'm like, yeah, this is fantastic. Towards the end of the movie, there's a scene where like Chris Evans kind of like is once again like, hey, I love you. I've always loved you. Can you just like accept the fact that I love you and I'm always going to love you and I will always be here for you? And then she confesses her love back and she says it like, I love you too. That's it. No tension, no emotion behind it. It's just like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Okay. In 7th place, this is probably significantly higher than anybody else would have it, but the movie Deep Cover, this was an Amazon Prime original comedy, and I'm going to be totally honest with you, I'm personally not a huge fan of comedies. I think a lot of the times you go to watch a comedy movie, and because it's marketed as a comedy, you go into it with high expectations of like, okay, there's going to be a bunch of stuff that makes me laugh, and usually it ends up being very underwhelming. There tends to be a lot of plot points and errors in the movie because like you could tell that instead of writing a script for a movie and then including jokes in it, they write a bunch of jokes and they're like, okay, how can we work this into a scene? And in this movie, it doesn't necessarily feel like that. I think that this movie has a very fun, goofy premise, and I think that a lot of streaming services could learn from this movie in particular, because Netflix especially will do a lot of like heist films and action comedy movies where they take just this random A-list actor and this random A-list actor, throw them together and put them in the stupidest basic heist plot ever. And if you're going to do that, at least get actors that have good chemistry together. I think for the most part, Orlando Bloom, Brian, did I say Brian? Bryce Dallas Howard? I'm going to put her name up on the screen. I think I definitely just absolutely butchered that. But I think that her and then the guy who plays Nate the Great from Ted Lasso, I don't know his name. I'm sorry. I'm going to put his name up on the screen. But I think that they all have really good chemistry with each other. They all bounce off of each other incredibly well. They have great comedic timing. There's a lot of comedic bits in here that really worked for me. One of my favorite ones is, once again, Nate the Great from the Ted Lasso show. He walks into the bar or whatever. He's talking to this like mafia chick who's like a total badass. And he's very like kind and polite, and he's wearing a nice tuxedo. And she's just like, you're very polite and you wear nice clothes. You remind me of a movie character. And he's just like, James Bond? And she's like, Paddington? That actually made me laugh my ass off. That was really good. That got me so good. I fucking loved it. And then there's a couple of other moments with Orlando Bloom where, oh my god, Orlando Bloom needs to be doing more action comedies, because like he has the like stoicness that you need to play like a very serious straight action star, but he also has the comedic timing of somebody who could do great comedy work, and I need to see him in more immediately, because there's a sequence in here where his character is constantly going off the rails. He goes way too far a lot, and it's really entertaining in my opinion. But there's one scene where he's getting ready to fight two twins that are clearly much tougher than him, and they're in a store that has TVs playing in the background, and then the commercial for the movie that he is in, or like it's like a advertisement or something where he's the pizza night comes on in the background, and it's like a solid 30-second long scene where he's doing this really stupid cringy commercial, and he's staring at these two guys that are significantly stronger than him, and they're looking at the TV and then looking at Orlando Bloom and then looking at the TV and then looking at the Orlando Bloom, and it's so funny. There's just so many great comedy bits in here that I loved, and I'm gonna be honest with you, this might be one of my favorite movies that ends up coming out in the year. Not necessarily in the sense of is it a good movie, because it's not. There's a reason it's number 7 on my list, but I could see myself rewatching this. It was really entertaining. And in my number 6 spots, this movie is a live action adaptation of How to Train Your Dragons. I personally, once again, had a really good time with this movie. I think that the theatrical release for this film is phenomenal. I definitely think that going and seeing this movie in theaters is great. Anytime you get to hear the test drive song in theater with the Dolby atmosphere, oh my god, it's incredible. Oh my god, the flying sequences, oh my god, it's phenomenal. The third act sequence where we get to see a giant kaiju dragon the size of a mountain, and it's actually like to scale, and you get to see that entire action sequences with all the dragons flying around. Oh my god, it is magical. You also get to see Gerard Butler fist fighting a dragon. Once again, magical. Really sick, really cool. I really enjoy it. And so overall, I really, really like this movie. I think that they did a lot of really good stuff with this film. And I think that it definitely, when you go see it in theaters, feels like this needed to be made in live action. This feels sick. I'm really glad they did this. But the reason why it's so low on this list is because once this movie comes out on streaming or DVD, there's literally not a single reason to watch this version over the animated version. And I do think that that's kind of where a little bit of my problem is going to be, because they didn't change it enough to really justify it existing necessarily. Coming in 5th place, we have the movie 28 Years Later. This was a really interesting zombie kind of horror movie. I really liked the overall vibes of this film. I definitely think that like the survival elements of it are really cool. I think that the editing, cinematography, acting for the most part is all phenomenal. Jodie Comer in this, really damn good. I absolutely loved her. I think that her performances in here was absolutely phenomenal. The child actor, Alfie Williams, if you were going to be doing a movie and you want your leading character to be a super young character, that's a gamble. Like that, you're really rolling the dice with that one and hoping to God that you get a D20. And I think for the most part, they definitely got like at least a D18. Please tell me you guys get Dungeons and Dragons references. I realize that Dungeons and Dragons has really made a comeback over the last couple of years, but it's still a nerdy thing. So if you don't know what that means, they took a gamble and it paid off. Alfie Williams, young actor, absolutely phenomenal in this film. I think that he handles a lot of the emotional sequences incredibly well. He has to have this like fake it till you make it energy where like he seems like he's really confident, but in reality you could tell he's a little kid. He's quaking in his boots over here, but like he pulls it off perfectly. I think that a lot of the comedy in this movie is relatively decent. That's one of my favorite things about horror movies, is because they're horrifying and they're trying to like, once you like get scared, right, you have this level of like, okay, well, there's this suspense, it builds, and then boom, you're terrified, right? But once you get terrified, it's hard to kind of like build up that meter to get scared again. So a lot of times in horror movies, they'll have to like have a like breaking the tension moment, and they'll have like some comedic bits in here. And I think that this movie does that balance insanely well. They'll build the tension. There's a scary sequence, and then there'll be like lighthearted stuff for about 10-15 minutes, and then a scary sequence, and then there will be lighthearted stuff for about 10 minutes, and then a scary sequence, and it balances incredibly well. The action sequences are insanely cool. The alpha, absolutely fucking terrifying. Like genuinely really scary. I was actually quaking in my boots a little bit. Like I was right there with you, Alfie. I felt that. But overall, really enjoyed this movie. I think that it's a cool journey. I like the fact that it's a little survival film. It reminds me a lot of some of my favorite movies from last year, like A Quiet Place Day One, where it's just two characters go on a journey, learn a little bit about themselves, meet other characters along the way, have fun adventures with them. And in a lot of ways, it doesn't necessarily feel like a standard horror movie because of that. And I like that. I think that that was really cool. The only thing that I really did not like about this movie, and the reason it's not higher up on this list, what the hell was that ending, man? Now, coming in 4th place, we have a movie that in my original review, I called very generic and basic. But that being said, we have the movie F1, right? I'm going to go ahead and say some of the obvious. Brad Pitt, absolutely fantastic. He is a movie star through and through, and he's just absolutely phenomenal in this film. Damson Idris, absolutely phenomenal. He is a rising star and he's going to be incredible. I imagine him being one of the biggest actors in Hollywood maybe 3 or 4 years from now. And the way that those two bounce off of each other is insanely good. Like, I genuinely think that their chemistry is fantastic. The tension between them during the really intense moments is really good. And I just think that overall, when you have incredible acting performances from your two leading characters, it's going to be really good. Do the story overall, does it kind of feel repetitive at times? Does it kind of feel like a lot of other sports movies? Absolutely. They go by literally all of the exact same tropes. Like, they have the underdog story, and oh my god, this guy is old. Can he still do it? Yeah, he can. And if you've seen any sports movie ever, you would know that that's the case. Yeah, he can still do it. And then you have the young guy who, obviously, because he's a rookie, he's going to have way too much confidence. Because, yeah, that's how all rookies work ever. Okay. Yeah, it's a little bit generic. But that being said, I'm currently down talking it. Let me talk about why this movie is number 4 and above 6 other movies on this ranking. The soundtrack, phenomenal. The score, phenomenal. The racing sequences, phenomenal. Absolutely fantastic. This is a theatrical experience if I've ever seen one. I personally did not see Top Gun Maverick when it came out in theaters. I watched it for the first time on a TV recently, and I could tell while I was watching that movie that goddamn I missed out. And I feel like that's going to be the case for this F1 movie. I think anybody who doesn't see it in theaters, if you're seeing it for the first time on a television, or you're watching it on an airplane, or you're watching it on a laptop, you are really doing a disservice. This movie is phenomenal in theaters. It's definitely has the vibes of the movie of the summer because, like I said, the soundtrack is absolutely phenomenal. It's very similar to last year. We had Twisters come out with an incredible soundtrack. The year before that, we had Barbie come out with an incredible soundtrack. I definitely think this is going to be the soundtrack of the summer, and because of that, it's just going to be a very culturally big movie, and I really enjoyed it. I did have a really good time with it. I'm just... I like Gran Turismo more, and people always give me a hard time about saying Gran Turismo is an incredible movie. I don't care. I personally connected with those characters a lot more. Oh, and that's another thing. Yeah, I feel like a lot of these characters don't have that great of character arcs. Like, I feel like Sony Hayes really does not learn any lessons throughout this movie, and that's weird. I don't know, just a nitpick. But in third place, I am going to go ahead and apologize. I am a Pixar shill, but we have the movie Elio. I think that this movie does something incredible that I personally was not expecting this film to do. So for people who used to be science nerds, I used to be a science nerd. I love everything about space exploration. One of the big questions that we had back when NASA was formed and we were kind of having this space race back in like the early 60s, a lot of people wanted to know, are we alone in the universe? Are there aliens? Are there other life forms out there? And it was a really big question. Are we alone? And the way that this movie is able to take that question and turn it into this interesting story about a kid who feels alone and then being obsessed with just like space and astrology and wanting to be abducted by aliens because he just wants to feel wanted for once in his life. That was incredible. That was a beautiful decision. There's a lot of incredible heart-to-heart moments where some characters are having conversations about, you know, family dynamics and how, like, even though you might have issues with your family, you should still love them because at the end of the day, they're there for you. And even though the way that they show their love might not be the best at times, you got to work for that love. You got to make sure that you're actually having the conversations and seeing things from each other's perspective. And I love it. I love that was fantastic. I think that the animation style is absolutely beautiful. There are some sequences where he is on a beach at night, and as somebody who loves going to the beach at night, oh, they absolutely nailed it. Oh my god, the water is incredible. If you don't have appreciation for animated water, let me tell you, that is not easy to do. It is gorgeous. It is stunning. And overall, this entire movie, stunning. And now the runner-up, coming in second place, we have another animated movie, whoopsie, the movie Predator, Killer of Killers. And I am a sucker for anthology movies. I'll be totally honest with you, in a day and age where streaming services are like, let's make a TV show that's 6 episodes, let's make a TV show that's 5 episodes, I will always advocate for, why not just make it an anthology and make it a movie, right? Movies like Kinds of Kindness that came out last year, that was 3 separate parts. Movies like this one, that is 3 separate parts. It's so cool. And I absolutely love it. And in this film, they do something special where like all 3 of the parts come together at the end and they do something even more spectacular with it. So overall, I love it. I think that the animation style is beautiful. I love the way that they're able to make really culturally rich sequences. The first act is a Viking storytelling. And they're back in the day and age with the Vikings. They're going around for vengeance and they're trying to murder a bunch of different villages. And the way that they fight is very barbaric and ancient. And I really love the way that they animate it. I think it is incredible. The way that they kind of deal with some of the lore with like Valhalla and the fact that, you know, there's going to be this great afterlife and only warriors get to go there and you want to die in battle and there's glory to that is really cool. And then we get to the second one and it's samurais and it's all about discipline and how you need to be able to obey orders. And if you make a mistake, you have to kind of pay up for the fact that you made that mistake and you need to learn how to, you know, do better essentially. And there's just a lot of discipline with it. That entire second act is almost completely without dialogue. And I think that that is absolutely phenomenal. And the way that that one ends, once again, absolutely incredible. And in each one of these stories, they're fighting a different predator and it adapts for each of the locations and scenarios that they're in, which makes it even cooler. And then the third one, and I really love this because we have a trained Viking, right? Somebody who's been a Viking their entire life and has been a warrior their entire life. We have a samurai who has been trained in the way of the samurai and has been fighting using kung fu and swords their entire lives. The third one is a young mechanic who got drafted into World War II, became a World War II fighter pilot, and just using creativity and his use and knowledge of, you know, his mechanic stuff is able to fight a predator that has a much more powerful and much more technologically advanced chip, and he's able to beat them and overcome them. Incredibly cool. And each of these, in my opinion, did a great job of building up the characters, building up an emotional attachment to them. And so that way, at the end of the movie, when they are pinned against each other, you really have like this conflict of like, oh my God, what do I root for? Are they going to work together? What's going to happen? I thought it was really beautiful. I thought it was fantastic. The animation style, once again, phenomenal, beautiful, feels like a painting at sometimes. And overall, I really, really loved this movie. And in first place, we have the movie The Life of Chuck. This one is directed by Mike Flanagan. For people who do not know, he's a horror director. He's known for a lot of horror TV shows on Netflix. And he said that this was not going to be a horror movie, but there are some jump scares in it. I'm not going to lie. I got scared a couple of times. And that's part of the reason I liked this movie. I felt pretty much every emotion imaginable watching this film. I felt terror. I felt regret. I felt joy. I cried. It was an absolutely beautiful movie that is supposed to be a celebration of life. It is incredibly thought-provoking all throughout this film. It'll have you questioning things about your own life, decisions that you made in the past, things that you might regret, and it kind of teaches you a valuable lesson about appreciating the time that we have on Earth, and I think that that's beautiful. There's also a 7-minute long dance sequence with Tom Hiddleston. Can I say, do I need to say more? That's so entertaining. He's so great. He's absolutely fantastic. There's a lot of really good energy throughout this entire movie. And I just love the fact that they started off at the end of his life and they eased their way into the beginning of his life. And it kind of like plays out as a mystery where you're trying to figure out, okay, who is this Chuck character? Why is he so interesting? This entire movie revolves around him. But for the entire third act, we don't know what's going on. And then they kind of explain it throughout the film that the reason we didn't know what was going on in that third act was because his brain is deteriorating and we're seeing things from the way he sees the world. And I thought that that was a really cool structural thing to do, and I think that that's part of the reason why I really like this movie. Its structure is incredibly unique, the storytelling is absolutely phenomenal, the direction is great, and all of the actors in it are fantastic. There's actors like Matthew Lillard who show up for literally a minute but give incredible performances. David Dastmalchian, I probably butchered his name. He also is in this movie for literally maybe a minute and gets me to tear up. And I just absolutely loved all of the acting performances, the story. It's incredibly emotional. Once again, my favorite of the last anthology, The Killer of Killers, was the second story. My favorite act from this movie was the second story. They were telling the story about one of the last times that he danced in his life and how he didn't realize it was going to be his last time dancing. And he went on to narrate that Chuck didn't realize the last time he did a lot of his favorite things. And they go through a list of the last time he was able to do this, the last time he was able to do that, the last time he was able to do this. And it really puts into perspective that there's a lot of times you're doing things in your life that you're doing it for the last time ever and you don't even know. And it really does make you feel like maybe you shouldn't take things for granted. Things that you do on a daily basis, maybe you should stop for a second and be like, damn, isn't it great that I get to be doing this right now because I have life and it might be short, but you gotta live it while you have it. So it was beautiful. very emotional. I'm not gonna lie, I'm about to cry talking about it. But yeah, overall, very, very great month for movies. I had a really good time for it. Feel free to leave your rankings down below. Remember, my rankings are just my rankings, and movies are an art form, and everybody interprets art differently. Art is in the eye of the beholder. So if you disagree with my takes, feel free to let me know down below. I love the engagement. And speaking of engagement, like I said, if you liked it, feel free to like and subscribe, and I'll hopefully see you guys in the next one. Peace out. Bow. Bow. Bow.